40 days ago, I started a challenge to make $500,000. And today I hit 2,000 views. Now, I know for the big creators out there, that's literally nothing. But for me, it's absolute proof that someone is actually watching. You see, success just isn't built in these massive, giant leaps. It's built in tiny, incremental, small wins. One single upload, one hard-learned lesson, just one improvement at a time. The ultimate goal is that 500K. And yeah, right now that goal still feels completely impossible. But honestly, that's the reality for 99% of people trying to build an audience from scratch. So welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're diving deep into the hidden architecture of viral narratives. We're going to deconstruct exactly how the world's top creators use extreme isolation and raw human psychology to craft stories that you literally can't look away from. And even better, we'll look at how you can take those exact same frameworks and use them to build your own success.
All right, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to kick things off with the ultimate retention hook, then compare physical versus digital isolation, dive into the actual price of sanity, break down a real-life prisoner's dilemma, and finally, wrap up by translating all this madness into high-income storytelling skills. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive right into this first part, the ultimate retention hook, or setting extreme stakes.
Listen, if you want to hold the attention of millions of people, you can't just casually tell a story. You have to manufacture an environment where the stakes are absolute. You've got to trap the viewer in the exact same dilemma as the people you're watching. So picture this. Imagine yourself placed inside this massive, blindingly white isolation chamber. You've got your own private bathroom and enough canned food to keep you alive, but zero contact with the outside world. None. Now, if you can somehow survive 100 days in there, there is $500,000 sitting in a vault right outside that door, just waiting for you. But if you tap out and walk through that door on day 99, you get absolutely nothing. Zero. That right there is the exact premise of one of Mr. Beast's most intense psychological experiments.
And let me tell you, just a few days into this, the mental toll is absolutely staggering. Listen to this raw quote from Bailey, one of the contestants. He said, "I'm staring at a blinding white wall, and I honestly think I'm losing my mind. The lights in there are blinding, the silence is deafening, and the psychological pressure is just immense. As an audience, we are hooked instantly, right? Because we're all sitting there watching this, silently asking ourselves, could I actually do this?"
Moving right along to Section 2, Physical versus Digital Isolation and the two types of solitary confinement.
Now, trapping someone in a white room isn't the only way creators are pushing the absolute limits of the human mind. Let's look at two completely different yet equally punishing types of isolation experiments that literally broke the internet. On one hand, we have Mr. Beast's physical isolation. Contestants Bailey and a total stranger named Susie are trapped in absolute sensory deprivation, eating the exact same canned chicken every single day. Sounds awful, right? Well, compare that to digital isolation. Creator Ryan Trahan strapped on a VR headset to spend 100 days completely inside the metaverse. And the crazy thing is, while he could talk to virtual avatars and eat virtual fast food, his actual physical body was decaying in the real world. He was physically trapped in a room, eating real-life pizza blindfolded, crying himself to sleep inside a headset, and dealing with this incredibly intense feeling of loneliness, even though he was technically surrounded by virtual people. Both of these formats lead to this profound mental decay, and man, they just keep the audience completely glued to the screen.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, the price of sanity, the psychological decay. What's really interesting about this next part is how the tension builds.
These creators are basically evil geniuses at manufacturing tension. They do it by entirely stripping away their subject's perception of time and sanity. Because it's not really about just locking someone in a room, is it? It's about watching human nature break down and then try to rebuild itself. Look at this timeline. On day 1, there's so much optimism. Susie and Bailey are super polite strangers. Ryan is pumped to become the king of the metaverse. But fast forward to day 20, paranoia completely sets in. By day 60, we hit this phase of crushing regret as the contestants start making these terrible, exhaustion-fueled decisions. And by day 100, they are at their absolute breaking points. In the cube, they can barely stand the sight of each other. And for Ryan, he's feeling entirely empty despite achieving all his virtual goals.
And you have to see the bizarre real-life coping mechanisms that develop from this kind of sensory deprivation. It showcases the raw emotional toll so perfectly. In that physical cube, Bailey lost it so badly by day 7 that he actually started whipping pieces of canned pork at the wall, literally just to feel something. They ripped up their only journal just to make a fake deck of cards. By the end of it, Susie was actually hiding Monopoly dice just to avoid interacting with Bailey. Meanwhile, over in the metaverse, Ryan is doing this goofy, shaky-breaky dance in a virtual mirror with a total stranger, again, just to feel some shred of human connection. It's raw, it's super weird, and it is just absolutely incredible storytelling.
But here is where the absolute genius of the format kicks into high gear. The creator introduces financial temptation to crack their subjects. So, imagine you're trapped in that white room, you're sleeping on a rock-hard floor, and suddenly, the door opens. You're offered a private chef for the rest of the challenge. Or, how about 2 incredibly comfortable smart beds that actually let you turn off those blinding lights? The catch? It's going to cost $50,000 of your shared prize money. And incredibly, in the heat of the moment, the contestants flat out rejected the beds. No way.
And that decision leads to the absolute masterstroke of audience retention. Let's pull back the curtain here for a second. On day 60, they get offered a massive mystery box for another $50,000. They debate it for a while, but ultimately play it safe and say no. Then, the box is open for the viewers. Inside is that $50,000 returned right back to them, along with the keys to 2 brand new Teslas, which, by the way, happen to be Susie's absolute dream car. Oh man! The crushing weight of that regret, knowing they just rejected a free dream car, it hooked the audience harder than any written script ever could. It creates this insanely powerful mix of curiosity and just empathic frustration. We feel their pain.
So the crucial takeaway here is that by day 70, they were completely broken. When they were offered a final chance to buy back their sanity, a massive package that included the beds, movies, spices, and another mystery box, they didn't even hesitate. They made a desperate bid of a staggering $100,101 of their prize money to get it. I mean, they overpaid massively. But at that point, basic human comfort was worth way more than $100,000.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this all builds to a climax. The prisoner's dilemma. The ultimate psychological twist.
Okay, so you've watched these 2 people suffer together for 100 grueling days. They've bonded, they've argued, they've survived. But on the very last day, right before they can walk out with the remaining $360,000, they get hit with the ultimate psychological twist. It's the classic prisoner's dilemma. They are given blindfolds and noise-canceling headphones, total silence. They cannot communicate at all, and they have to independently press a button to either split the money or steal the money. If both choose split, they each walk away with $180,000. Awesome. But if one steals and the other splits, the stealer takes the whole pot, all $360,000. But here's the kicker. If they both get greedy and press steal, they get absolutely zero, nothing. They spent 100 days losing their minds in a box for absolutely nothing. So after 100 days of psychological decay, are they friends or are they enemies? Well, spoiler alert, they both chose to split. But man, talk about tension engineered to absolute perfection.
All right, final section, Section 5. High-income storytelling skills, escaping the system.
So what does this all mean? Why are we analyzing crazy YouTube survival challenges? Because mastering the ability to craft these high-stakes, emotional spectacles is basically the modern equivalent of a highly paid superpower. Let's pivot for a second and look at some financial frameworks from entrepreneur Mark Tilbury. He shows us exactly how to translate this psychology of viral storytelling into massive real-world wealth. Tilbury defines things like video editing, high-ticket sales, copywriting, and emotional storytelling as high-income skills. You know, the traditional path of working a 9-to-5 and trading your time for a stagnant salary, that system is breaking down. Today, if you know how to build retention mechanics into a script or edit a video so perfectly that every 15 seconds introduces a new psychological hook, you literally hold the keys to a highly scalable, multi-million-dollar business.
Tilbury breaks this whole thing down into an explicit 3-step framework. Step 1, consume. Find a high-income skill, analyze the top creators in that space, and extract their techniques. Step 2, apply. This is absolutely crucial. Go out into the real world, test it, build something, and yeah, fail. Remember that creator from our opening who was celebrating hitting just 2,000 views on day 40 of his challenge? That right there is step 2 in action. He was actively applying his skills, showing up every single day, making small, incremental improvements, knowing full well that day 40 is complete, but the challenge continues. And finally, step 3, educate. Once you figure it out and create a scalable system, you teach it to others, which builds predictable, recurring revenue.
Now, to successfully educate and build that incredibly loyal audience, Tilbury suggests using something called the impact principle. It's a framework focusing on a few key things. Inspire your audience,
Deliver a super clear message. Give them practical, actionable steps. Be totally authentic about your own struggles. Build a genuine connection. And use perfect timing to ride relevant trends. This principle is exactly what triggers the same emotional realism and deep connection that kept you glued to the screen watching a guy slowly lose his mind in a VR headset.
But listen, none of this happens overnight. As Mark Zuckerberg once noted, the greatest successes come from having the freedom to fail. Whether you're trying to survive 100 days trapped in a blinding white room, trying to survive the intense loneliness of the metaverse, or just grinding through day 40 of a digital business challenge hoping to get 2,000 views, showing up and failing, it's not just an option, it is a mandatory part of the process. The architecture of human attention has been entirely decoded by these top creators. They know exactly how to hook you, how to make you physically feel their isolation, and how to make you care deeply about their survival. But the crazy part? The tools to build this kind of captivating narrative and the high-income skills required to actually execute them, they are freely available to anyone willing to put in the work to learn them. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative question. Are you going to stay on the traditional path, forever consuming everyone else's stories, or will you master the psychology of storytelling to build your own success?